the one, the only, paid fairly!
It's a life-changing moment when you're working with Bernatilla.
You have to be studying as an actor like you were studying to be an Olympic swimmer.
Mr. Vadim Perelman is an extraordinary director. You come originally from Kiev, Ukraine. It's a long journey. So interesting how you can come from Ukraine to come to Hollywood to make the films you've made. And I first became aware of you when you made this sensational film, The House of Sand and Fog. What an incredible achievement. Can we just start a little bit from, we're going to talk about the Persian student, or the Persian lesson. They're all called different. They changed the lesson, But I just want to know, how is it that you got started? What was your family background that all of a sudden Ukraine produced a director like you?
Well, I was lived in a happy, fairly large family. I was an only child, but the family was large with cousins and so on. We most of the family lived in one room, believe it or not. We were very poor. But
One room.
One room, yeah. We lived in something called a communal flat, which was a big Jewish mishpucha living in a communal flat with one common kitchen for about 4 or 5 families, one common bathroom for the same amount of people. And the joke was that the toilet seat was never cold in that bathroom. Yeah, and it was a happy life. It was a life filled with books. I learned to read when I was 3 years old, and I would read and go to school and help. And then a bunch of tragedies started happening in our family. A bunch of deaths. Grandfather would die, then the other grandfather. We all lived, all the people lived together. The other grandfather would die, then and then ultimately my dad, when I was 9 years old, died in a car accident. So essentially I was left alone with my mother, and she was an engineer, worked at a factory. They were making, I believe, raincoats. And so I said, Mom, let's go, let's leave. And she said, where, how, what? And at that point, at that time, there was an opportunity to leave, ostensibly to Israel, but we didn't want to go to Israel, which is a story I'll tell later. But we ended up in Italy, where I said to my mom, well, we're gonna have to go somewhere where they speak English. You're gonna have to learn English. So she sat there like a straight A student, and she was 30, but she was pretty young. She sat there studying English, and I was running around Rome earning money for us. It was like a little.
What were you doing? What were you doing in Rome?
I was working gas stations. I was helping people carry luggage. I was washing dishes in restaurants, just trying to make money. And we had a place that was 45 minutes out of Rome via train. So it was difficult for me to get home every night, especially if you're washing dishes in a restaurant till 12 o'clock. The train stopped running. And so I went to, I would sleep in the streets. I would sleep in wherever I could. And that was quite an experience. It's a very weird way to answer how I became a director, but that's how I became a director, essentially, is by seeing the world from a point of view of loneliness, from a point of view of desperation. Doesn't necessarily have to lead to tragic and lonely and desperate films, but I think that you have to exercise your imagination. And at the same time, I was reading incredible stories, so that I think helped a lot. And earlier in the Ukraine, I went to a camp for kids, and I read books all day, and then at night, at lights out, I would retell the books to the kids around me. I think I was about 7, 8 years old at that time. I would retell the books to the kids around me in vivid detail, sometimes visual detail. And I think that was my first directing, my first adaptations, you know. So I guess that's where kind of it all started.
What do you remember your father teaching you? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember my father teaching me anything. My father was a great partier. My father loved to hang out with his friends, and he had many, and to drink. And you have to understand, he died when he was 32. So he was quite a young guy, and there's still legends going around about him. As far as what kind of magnetic and sociable personality he was. He was an incredibly good-looking man with a great sense of humor, and he didn't teach me anything. he was mostly absent.
This feeling I sense that you wanted to tell a story, but what made you want to tell stories so badly?
It's difficult to say. I guess it's because I am egotistical. if you want to put it that way. I think we all are in a certain way.
But you wanted to say something. You wanted to be heard.
Yeah, we want to be heard, and we want to be taken for real. We want to be appreciated for our abilities, whether it be storytelling or coaching or whatever it may be.
You then went to, so where did you go from Rome? You went to what?
To Edmonton, Alberta, which was a very cold place.
And why did you pick that instead of like New York or something like that?
We didn't have a choice. We had no choice. And plus, my mother's sister at that point lived in Edmonton.
I see. So you went there.
Went there, yeah. Mm-hmm.
How was that for you?
It was a very miserable place. It was a cold, kind of blue-collar city at the time, oil workers and steel workers and things like that. And, and I became a man of the people there quite early in my, I was 16, I believe. But when I got there, I didn't know English, at all, because I didn't study it like my mother did. And so I ended up learning English as we went. Even now I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just speaking phonetically.
No, you sound pretty good for someone.
I've learned this phonetically, this whole speech.
Very good. It's you're such an interesting guy that you've made such powerful films full of emotions and passions, and I want to get to that in a minute. So you went to, when did you start? When did you go to the film school? Did you go? I know you went for a little bit.
Physics. First of all, I had very tumultuous years in Edmonton, from about 16 to 20. And, where I was kind of a juvenile delinquent, where I was trying to show the world I'm special in a different way.
Right.
And then I went to night school to get my high school GED. Uh-huh. And I went to work construction during the day, night school at night. And then I went to University of Alberta for physics math minor. And because I don't know, I always liked the rigidity of formula. To me that was, I don't know, somehow also important. Okay. And ending up in this, the second year of my degree is a 4-year program. The second year, I saw a film, which was a documentary. It was called, I can't remember what it was called, but it was a documentary about Norman Jewison filming Fiddler on the Roof.
I've seen it.
Yeah. And he is sitting in some trailer and he's chain smoking and typing away on the old typewriter and coming out once in a while, and there's snow and there's no snow. And he's extremely involved in building this world, and he has ups and downs through it. And the world was quite interesting to me because it was the world of my predecessors and so on. Right. And so I said, this is what I wanted to It was quite that simple. It was like a bolt of lightning. And I came out of that, and it was an easy art selective that I took. It was like film history 100. So yeah, I went outside, and I remember there was giant snowflakes falling, and I lifted my face to the sky and I said, finally, I said, finally, I got something. Finally, I have, and with me, you give me a direction and I'll go get it. That's one of the things, one of my qualities. I'm unstoppable that way. And so without any nepotism, without any money, came to LA with $14 in my pocket, I remember, and nothing really, and a new wife. I had that, and I ended up in at a party. I remember Christmas party that I got into right this time of year, that I got into some post-production house in LA, and I said, hey, I'm a director. I'd walk around and say that to people, and people go, yeah, go on. That busboy here is a director too. Julio, come here. This is another director.
He's a director. Everybody's a director.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I and then suddenly, boom! First commercial. PSA. Oddly enough, stay in school, which I never did.
It's cool. That's right.
Oddly enough, that was the message. All my PSAs were like an exercise in hype. I forgot the word. Well, when you mean something but you don't do it, or when you don't
Right,
do
but things that you should have done as a kid, you never did it. Now here you were doing the PSA, encouraging people.
right.
Stay in
So
school. And then what happened after that?
anti-smoking, wear a seatbelt. I did all those. So
Oh,
then, yeah, I ended up doing maybe 300 commercials on like the highest level of up to date. I'm saying highest level of commercials, international, big commercials like Coca-Cola, General Electric. A lot of car stuff, a lot of
commercials are very difficult because you have a very small amount of time to tell a story. It's very difficult, commercials.
It's good exercise. It's an incredible exercise for what I do now. I mean, it's like, I don't know, it's like intense workout, and then you have to go, sprints versus, mid distance. So anyway, I and then all this. So now I became quite successful. I'm making good money, and the people. I'm in a company called Propaganda. I don't know if you remember that.
Of course, I remember that. Sure.
Which was I'll just name the directors. It was Fincher, Bay, Verbinski, Spike Jonze, Michel Gondry, and more and more and more. I'm sure I'm forgetting some other brilliant directors, and me, and we all want to make movies. Not a single one of us. Greg Gold made a movie, California. And that was it, with Brad Pitt and early film. Fincher hasn't made his Alien yet, and so Bay is still doing Got Milk commercials. So I start get offered big films like Armageddon and things that later on Michael ended up doing and stuff, because all my commercials are quite sizable. And I start turning them down to their chagrin, because and they said, why are you turning this? They didn't have an agent or anything at that time. It was just this commercial production company. Why are you turning these down? And I said, because I don't want to make big commercials, long commercials, because that's what they are, essentially, to me. I'll wait. What am I really want to make movies, but what's the rush? So 10 years goes by, and I'm in an airport bookstore, and I'm flying to, I think, Indonesia to film another segment of a General Electric huge campaign, big budgets back then and all that. And I'm standing, because I always have to have a book. I'm standing waiting for a plane, and I'm walking into a bookstore, and there's I forgot to say that I'm in Rome at this airport bookstore for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, since being in the streets of Rome. Yeah, and here I am.
Coming
so
back as a
everybody, let's go out, let's go out, let's go out. I said, no, just go walk the streets. And I went. I remember I put on my sweatpants and just wandered around. And this is where I used to sleep. This is the restaurant where they kicked me out. This is where a guy wanted to sexually assault me. This is where this, and like all this kind of crazy life of, walking my Stations of the Cross in De La Rosa. Yeah. And the next day I'm in a bookstore and I'm spinning the wheel, the rack around, and I see this book called House of Sand and Fog. And I take it out and I go, I'm really quite, good with books, knowing if it's good or not. So I go, look at the back, go, wow, this looks really interesting. English rack, I take it. On the plane, I read it. I'm sitting there completely covered in tears by the end of the book. And I see everybody in my life in it. I see my mother in it. I see my stepfather in it. I see myself in it. I see my first wife in it. I mean, everybody's in it in this book. Andre did an amazing job. So I met an agent. No, he wasn't an agent. He was an assistant to an agent at a party somewhere, some commercial event. I met him and I call him. And I said, find out, how do I get the rights to this? How do I do this? He goes, well, let me find out. So he goes, he was at William Morris at the time, it existed. So he started, searching around. He said, oh, you're not going to get this book. I said, why? Because Oprah it still hasn't been announced yet, but Oprah just chose it for her book club. And there's like hundreds of offers and you're not going to get this book. Probably you wouldn't be able to afford it. And I would have to do it with my own money. So I said, give me the author's phone number. I don't care how. And they said, okay, all right. Well, I guess we can do that. He was always grateful to him for doing that.
yes.
He did. And so I'm in Indonesia right now. So I'm in this hotel and there's floor to ceiling window like this. And I have his phone number and I dial him. He lives in Massachusetts. I dial him. I say, Andre, hi, you don't know me. Hi. My name is this. And I essentially tell him the story that I'm telling you now. From the beginning. I was born in a poor family in a communal flat. And he's listening. I'm going, when is he going to tell me to fuck off and hang up the phone? I'm just wondering. And I said, so listen, your book. And he goes, oh, okay. I said, he said, have you ever directed anything? No. I said, no. But not films. I've done commercials and stuff. But can I see something? I go, no, I'm not going to show you the commercials. There's nothing to do with what I'm proposing. But I said, but you just have to trust me on this. You have to trust me that my soul and my heart and my whole living is in this, and that nobody in the whole world will do this the way I will. Nobody will do it justice. They will take your child, they will chain him to a radiator, and they'll fucking fuck it up the ass. I know that's going to happen, but this, I will take care of your baby. I really will, because now I'm raising it. If you birthed it, now I'm raising it. And he did. He gave it
right then and there, or did he say he's going to call you back, or?
He said, all right, Vadim, it's yours, And he's a good guy, real guy. And so I did, and I bought it. And he made money enough from purchase price that he, after the studio got involved, he bought a house with this. He was already, quite, but he was working as a carpenter when he wrote this book. He wrote it in his car. Anyway.
Wait, he was a carpenter.
He was a carpenter that was ready.
Wrote this incredible book.
Yeah. It wasn't his first. It was his second, I believe, novel. But the first one nobody's ever heard or seen. He had a famous dad, though, Andre Debus, who's a classic short story writer from New Orleans.
Right.
Who was, he had a very difficult time with his dad because he was, it's his story. But anyway, so he wasn't like a son of privilege at all.
Absolutely.
He was a rough and tumble Massachusetts Southie type.
But the story is a very unusual story. I wonder where that came to him about this woman.
I'll get him for you guys if you want.
No, but it must be part of his journey somewhere. He must know something about this. It's not a story.
He had a girlfriend in college that was Iranian who had a dad that was like Colonel Barani. And he read about a woman who lost her house with that for the same reasons. So he combined them in his head.
Oh.
Really, I mean, we really match in many ways. And I think in my future there's still yet another book of his.
Well, there's a lot of things. You're just starting, my friend. You're just starting. Tell me about this incredible movie when you finally got to do The House in Sand and Fog and the power and the effect that it had on you. What was the effect on you?
A very deep interview I'm doing right now. The effect on me was it was a justification, kind of this is what I'm 100% honest when I say I didn't think I made a great movie. I honestly didn't when I finished it. I didn't, because you're so in the trees. You can't really see the forest.
No, of course.
You're storing this performance in this moment and this color in this moment, and how many frames to hold that pause and all that. So I didn't really think about whether I made a good film. First time I suspected is when we took it to Boston. It was before anything, because the screenings, the focus groups were stacked, with I don't know where they ended up going. I went to one of them, but it was very in the top two boxes, as you know. The top two boxes are excellent to very good, as far as rating them. So it was very good in that aspect, very good. But then there's the other critical thing for the studios is, would you recommend it to any of your friends or family?
Yes.
Almost not a single person said yes, they would. So it was excellent and very good, but nobody would recommend it to their friends and family. So it ended up being 64 or something like that. And so the studio was fucking with me constantly. This is DreamWorks. They would call me, go, oh my God, 64, that's not good. I don't know why they wanted to keep me in tonus. I don't know why, because I was still editing. And they wanted
a little comment, like a song in the middle of somewhere.
Like they wanted their cousin in it, I think, So I was, well, that's another story, is how I fought them every step of the way, to the point where I said, I don't care if it's my last film. I honestly don't, guys. I'm just,
yeah. By the way, it's listed before I had the honor of meeting you a few days ago, which I feel I've known you forever. It was listed in the class of 10 films every actor had to see, and you were on that film. Oh yes, that was something.
That's a great honor.
Oh yeah, no, it's
for the actors, not so much me, but for the actors.
No. But the actors were there, but you put the space. You created that. Believe me.
I had the balls to tell Ben Kingsley what to do. Believe it or not. Mm-hmm.
And how was it to work with Ben Kingsley? What was that like?
It was amazing. It was an absolute. Here, I'll tell you. I didn't know how to work with actors. I did 10 years of commercials where you tell a person, no, you pick this up and you smile. You go like, oh, walk over here, and then on the third step you look left. And so that was basically it. Oh, you look sad. Here you look sad. It's like working with kids. It's very much like working with kids or pets.
Or dogs.
And yeah, exactly. Sit. Okay, and that's basically. I'm exaggerating. There are some.
No, I understand. Listen, I did 300 commercials. I did 200 commercials as an actor.
But you don't know how to work with actors. Right.
So then what happened?
It shows in Michael Bay's films, actually. So how did I work with him? He's a great personality. He's very strong. He's very imposing, very scary. In a very intimidating way. but it's, I had to call him Sir Ben, and I had to help him with the role. He said he had a little bit about the accent. I said, well, why don't you just see somebody, how they speak? So he said, oh, that's good. I'll take the Shah. And so he watched everything there was on the Iranian Shah, so he emulated even when you see him there, it's a Shah, essentially. It's the way he walks, it's his posture, it's his delivery, everything, even his accent. He started out with accent, but ended up being the Shah. And so when we were shooting, by the way, it's funny, I saw your thing on YouTube just before this. And there's a moment where Pollock says, I was waiting to be found out.
Right, that's it.
He said that to me. I said, we were standing there, I was smoking, he was just hanging out drinking his tea outside the stage, the sound stage where we did the table read. And Jennifer Connelly's there, the whole cast is there. I'm there, producers, I don't think producers were there. It was whatever, script supervisor, etc. And we were sitting around the table, and I said, just before we were sitting around, I'm smoking, I go, why do you look worried, Ben? Trying to lighten it up. I go,
yeah,
Ben. I said, why do you look worried? He goes, every fucking time I go through this, I think they're going to fire me. He says, I think they're just going to fire me because they will find out I can't act. And I think it's goes to all you actors. It's even the big one, even the great ones.
No, the great ones actually always want to get better, and they always think they're not good enough. The average actors think they're okay. That's the difference I found out.
There's this unbelievable self-confidence, this unbelievable poise, and then inside he's in terror. It's lovely quality.
I met him one time, and he said, I don't like to act, I like to react. Because he said acting is lonely, but reacting is more interesting.
That's exactly what he said this is, I said, later on, we're friends. I mean, he comes to my house for my birthday. We're flies in. So we're when I was living in LA. And his birthday is December 31st, by the way. So
wow.
New Year's Eve.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're always at my house. He brought another one of my favorite actors once, Fred Molina, over. Who I love Fred Molina. He's
beautiful.
Yeah, and he brought him and his wife, and we're hanging out. And and I said, so how do you act? Tell me, teach me for my next films. For how do you do this shit? How do you do this stuff? He goes, I don't really. You put the person in front of me, my partner in the scene, and in our film, Johnny, the little boy, you put him in front of me, and I react to him. I can't remember exactly what he said, but
he doesn't say acting is lonely. I like to react off someone. Just what he gives you, you give. That's what he plays that.
Yeah, and I remember the only time he even asked me, oh, right, what should I? The whole film, a lot of scenes. He's one of the main people. He asked me when he was driving. I don't know if you remember, driving the car back from his son, in the hospital room. He's driving the car with that giant bloody hands and ring on, and he's driving home to his wife. And he asked me, I don't know why he asked me. I guess he didn't have anybody to react from, because he's in the car just looking out the windshield. And he said, what should I do? I said, just look forward. He said, should I cry? I go, no, don't cry. Nobody cries by themselves, really. People cry for other people. And I just act like, I don't know why it came up, but I just act like you have sand in your eyes.
Sand.
And he's like, what? Sand in your eyes.
Right.
I know I came up with this poetic, ridiculous note, but I said, okay, I said sand. He goes, oh, that's lovely, yes. So he's sitting on the process trailer and we're driving along the PCH. And he's like, and he had sand in his eyes. If you look at that scene, it's like somehow he communicated what I said. That's the great actor, you know. Yeah.
It is such a unique film. It's a very powerful film. And what was the experience? I want to tell. What was the experience in LA? I mean, you hit hard. I mean, everybody knew you. What was that experience like for those who?
First film, 3 Oscar nominations. Many people feel not enough Oscar nominations.
Me too. Go ahead.
Um, it was 5 films nominated that year before it was 10, you know, for everything. So it was quite a ride, you know.
It was not. The movie was nominated for Best Picture.
No,
No. What was it? It was nominated for.
it was the year of the third part of Lord of the Rings,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
where everybody felt they owed them everything. So it ended up being, I think they won 12 Oscars.
What was it like to be in LA for those people? We have a lot of wonderful actors from around the world.
Yes. Which had National Board of Review, which was Best Director Debut, Vadim Perelman, House and Fog, for that year. And National Board of Review is 10 times more important to me than the Oscars. It really is. If you guys don't know what it is, it's a collection. Maybe you can tell people. It's a collection of really accomplished people in every field: architects, fiction writers,
The best artists in their field are
artists, and even near artistic categories in their field, and they vote for best movies.
What was it like when you were in Hollywood? What was your experience in Hollywood going to the Oscars? What was that like for you?
It was like a dream. It was incredible. I mean, really was. The problem, one of the things is when you get to the Oscars, you've been with those same people, nominees, through every award. You've been through the SAG Awards, you've been through the Producers Guild Awards, you've been through
the Writers Guild Award,
the Independent Film Awards, you've been through you've sat at those tables or in those audiences with those same people and heard the same names, seen the same clips. It's like being on a cruise together, you know, where you make friends with the other families, you know?
Right.
You go, oh, let's not sit with them.
Right. That's exactly right. You're with them from the beginning to the end. Yes.
I'm sick of them already. Let's go sit.
Get off the boat.
Let's get off. You can't get off the boat.
What was it like talking to Spielberg? Tell me some of the directors that noticed and spoke to you. What are some of the things that they said? I mean,
Stephen after that. So Stephen, I know Stephen quite well. It was incredible. I mean, all that was you know, extremely rare air. You know, it was very, very interesting and very humbling in a way. You know, and yet because I realized that they're just like us. You know, they're just like us. They have the same fears, and they're sometimes wrong, and they're sometimes unsure, and so
they're human. They're human like you.
Don't sweat your fears right now. I'm talking to your students. You know,
right. But I want to ask you, what would you tell the younger Vadim if you had a chance to talk to him? What would you like him to have known that he didn't know back then? Now that you're all the way over here, what do you feel like the younger Vadim should have known? Would you like him to?
I would tell him to listen more. I would tell him to listen more to the others, to the experience, and not to think that you know everything.
To listen more, to be open enough to learn. That's basically it. To listen.
Listen to experience. You don't have to listen to the experience of the great. Just listen to anybody's experience. I've realized in making my first movie how hard it is to make a movie, let alone a good one. But it is really hard to make a B slasher film, horror movie. It's hard. It's drudging. It's incredibly difficult thing to do, and not just for a director, for actors, for everybody. So I said, so I have to respect that. So you can't just go, oh, that was a crap film.
No.
You know, as much as you want to do that, you can just say, well, it's not for me. You have to have the respect for the people who made it, for the people who put their effort in it, put their sweat.
What would you say the film experience or being an artist has taught you about your own life?
I don't know. I'm not done yet. So
No, it's not. We're not. This is not an achievement award yet. I'm saying, what is art taught you? Because it's so, to me, it teaches me everything about myself and about humanity that I would have never known. Empathy for others. What do you think it's taught you along the way? What has art taught you? Being an artist.
it has taught me that about myself is that
Yeah.
my greatest pleasure in life is affecting others. You know, my greatest goal in life is to see, when I stood in that, my back to the side wall of the theater in Boston and saw Andre's, this is the novelist's friends, filling that auditorium, including my friends, my relatives. It was like a friends and family screening that we did before anybody saw it. I was still editing the film, and saw there these firemen, and all his friends are firemen and you know, and carpenters and so on, just these real men, and saw their faces and saw their tears and saw their emotion. I said, this is it. This is why I'm doing it. Simple thing.
Well, when you see emotions, people are alive.
Not really for this.
No.
Yeah, but I'm doing it for that, to see those wet eyes in the audience, to feel the people feeling what I feel. I think it's sharing my feelings with them through this device of making a movie about someone else that's kind of like about me. You know, and there's a lot of it's very convoluted, but
Even though it's very clear you had a very difficult upbringing, yet you have this enormous passion and heart. Where did that come from? Because that's all I see when I talk to you. I just feel your passion and your heart. Where do you think that comes from? Is that just innate? Or
no, I think it comes from my mom. A lot of it, yeah. My mother's quite a lovely, intelligent person. She's always been my support. She's always been, you know, she's the one that famously said, "If not you, then who?" When I was little.
yeah.
And
Now,
I think that's what made me call that writer. I mean,
right.
I wouldn't have called that writer if she didn't.
Right.
say,
If not you, if not you, who will?
"You, then who?" It's
Then
basically what we were talking
Not
about
you, then who?
these fears about Spielberg, about all those, you know, people, you know, who's we're all the same, you know,
We're all the same.
you go get it.